Hey everyone, it is Danny and welcome to this update video this morning. I trust and hope that you're doing great, and we're going to be taking a look at our two active tropical storms out there, Philippe and Rina. So both of these storms are well to the east of the Caribbean islands, and Philippe specifically is going to be lingering around for some time. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be looking at the latest from the National Hurricane Center, conditions out there, some model data, and of course we'll talk about what is currently happening across the Caribbean and the rainfall forecast for today. And so let's go on to the satellite imagery, and here we can see that both of these systems are looking quite distinct here, and actually a lot better compared to yesterday, where there was just a whole mess out there. But now we're seeing these two distinct tropical storms. So Philippe is closer to the Caribbean and Rina is right behind it. And let's briefly talk about what is happening and what is expected across the Caribbean. So let's zoom into the area, and here we can see that there is some thunderstorm activity across some areas near Grand Cayman, going over to Central America, and even some spots in northern South America as well. So there is some activity taking place in those areas, and even as we head through today, there could be some additional showers and thunderstorms across some parts of Central America, and that could induce some flooding. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rainfall map here, and here you can see these shades of oranges and reds. So those are indicative of some substantial rainfall. So talking about parts of Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, and then headed into sections of El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica. Not seen as much expected for Panama. Still some substantial rainfall possible across some spots. Same story as we head into northern South America for parts of Colombia and Venezuela. As you look to the Guyanas, we can see that much is not expected. So it should be a pretty hot and sunny day today. Same story as we head to the Windward Islands, including Trinidad, Tobago, Barbados, and also the ABC Islands, so Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire. Unfortunately, no rainfall activities is likely as we head through today. Going up to the Leeward Islands, though, there could be a chance of some passing showers here and there, and same story for the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and we can even see some thunderstorms popping up across parts of Hispaniola, Jamaica, even for Cuba, and sections of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. But heading up into Florida, and we see Grand Bahama right there. There could be a lot of rainfall within these spots, especially as we head to later today. So that is what is on the horizon, guys, in terms of the rainfall activity. And now let's head back to our tropical cyclones. So here they are. Here we're looking at them at a much closer view. There is the eastern islands of the Caribbean, and there is Philippe right there, and then Rina behind it. So Rina is being impacted by the shear more than Philippe right now, and we'll be looking at the conditions in a moment. But first, we want to talk about the latest coming from the National Hurricane Center. So we're starting out with Rina, and this is the cone forecast. So we're seeing here that it is not moving very quickly. It's moving to the north-northwest at 5 miles per hour, and it has maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. So it is a weak tropical storm out there, and a lot of intensification is unlikely. We can see that by early next week, headed to Tuesday, headed to the midweek Wednesday. It is expected to weaken to a tropical depression, and then eventually what is left of it is likely to move out. So Rina should not be much of a problem for anyone, and is likely to remain a fish storm out there. Now let's head on to Philippe, and here is the latest cone forecast for it. We can see here that that mustard shading, that is representative of the extent of tropical storm force winds. So still lopsided, as it is still being impacted by some shear, and it is moving to the southwest at 2 miles per hour. So it is barely moving out there, and as a matter of fact, it should loiter east of the Lesser Antilles, well, the Leeward Islands, maybe for another 3 to 4 days. So it's just going to be sitting by, and unfortunately not close enough, or not expected to be close enough to the point where it would induce some substantial rainfall activity, because that would be good to offset the drought conditions for many areas. But at the same time, certainly we do not want a tropical storm, those tropical storm conditions loitering around for a long time, but that is unlikely. So the system is going to be moving slowly to the southwest until it makes that curve as we head to early next week and starts moving up to the north at a much quicker pace. As of now, it is pretty weak, winds of 45 miles per hour, similar, or the same rather, in terms of sustained winds to that of Rina. Now, as we look at the probability of tropical storm force winds, that as we head up this scale here, the chance is higher. So we can see that dark shading for some islands of the Eastern Caribbean, Antigua, Barbuda, Guadeloupe, even going to Dominica, in that darker green shade. And that is only a 5% chance that you guys could experience tropical storm force winds. So that seems quite unlikely right now. But of course, I'll keep you guys posted with all that is happening with the system. And so now we want to go ahead and talk about the conditions out there. Firstly, we're looking at the wind shear map. So this might be a bit difficult to understand, but if you look closely, you can see the white outline of the different land areas. Those red lines, they indicate unfavorable shear. Yellow means neutral and green means favorable. So there we can see Philippe and there is Rena. We can see more of those red lines over Rena, indicating that upper level winds are pretty strong, impacting the system. So it is lopsided right now, and there is Philippe in a bit more conducive environment in terms of the shear, but nonetheless still being impacted by it. Now we're moving on to the dry air map. So when we see more of the shades of oranges and reds, those are areas of denser dry air. So as you can see ahead of Philippe, there is some dry air in the area. So once that infiltrates the cyclone, that actually can help to induce some weakening. So it is not in the most conducive environment right now to actually strengthen a whole lot over the coming days. But some models are expecting some significant strengthening of this system over the course of the coming days, but that is not really being reflected by what the National Hurricane Center has. So we'll see what eventually happens with it. And let's now go ahead and quickly talk about the ensemble tracks from both GFS and Euro. So we're kickstarting with Euro here, and each of these separate lines are different ensemble members. And so this goes out to Saturday of next week, just over a week from now, the 7th of October. So we can see these tracks, these various tracks for Philippe and Rena. Some of these tracks for Philippe want to take the system a bit closer to the Caribbean, but that's not the majority of them. Majority want to keep the system outside of the Caribbean, and then they kind of overlap with those of Rena. So overall, these systems are expected to remain offshore. But take a look at that new cluster. So there is a new tropical wave off the African coast. And if you watched my update last evening, the icon model was actually hinting that we could see something try to become of it. So as of right now, though, the National Hurricane Center has not marked that wave to be watched for development over the next 7 days. Maybe they will if the environment ahead is conducive, but there isn't a lot of agreement. There isn't some strong agreement right now on seeing some development. And even looking at this, only a few members are saying, hey, we could see something, and they're not showing something strong either. Now let's head on to the GFS ensemble members, and here we can see they're kind of all over the place here with these systems, but there's that next cluster off the African coast. By the way, this goes out at the same time to Saturday the 7th of October. We see that cluster of members off the African coast, and even in the Caribbean, hinting that we could see development. In the Canadian model, GFS, they have been showing that, hey, we could see a tropical storm try to get itself together either in the Western Caribbean or over in the Gulf of Mexico. So that is definitely something we want to look out for as we head to the early and middle part of October. And so guys, of course, I'm here to keep you posted at all times on what is happening. And that is pretty much it for this update. So I trust and hope you found it to be quite informative. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll respond as best and as soon as I can. And as always, remember to be weatherwise.